Hi, I'm Jalen Rose, and welcome to the Renaissance Man podcast, proudly presented by the New York Post, a show we cover trends in fashion, entertainment, current events, and everything in between. My next guest had been, now, and next. She's an actress, comedian, and writer, known for so many co-starring and starring roles, including with Denzel Washington in Inside Man and with Chris Rock. And I think I love my wife. Now she's starring in the throwback classic back mainstream as Aunt Viv on the hit show Bel-Air, which got picked up for season 1, 2, now 3. It is my honor to welcome the talented Cassandra Freeman.
Yay!
Man.
Thank you for bringing me on today. It's such an honor. Hello.
Thank you.
Great introduction. I feel like I want to go dancing now.
I appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time. And I know you're very busy because you're getting it done in so many different facets. So I have to ask you about your childhood a little bit. You grew up in Florida. So tell me, what was your childhood like as a kid?
Yeah, I was born in West Palm Beach, and then my parents divorced. I ended up moving to Jacksonville, Florida, which is sort of South Georgia. And I lived I live with my dad and my grandma, and I had like a very simple life. I always tell people, like, my next door neighbor was like a junk collector or something like that. And in his backyard, he had like one of those old barbecue grills, and like magnolia trees would like bow down over it. And I would stand on top of that barbecue grill and pretend like the magnolia was like my microphone. And that's where my imagination really grew, was in the backyard of his yard, because he had everything back there that could be anything for a kid's imagination.
That backyard sound like my late great Uncle Paramore's backyard, because he was like Fred Sanford of the neighborhood. So drill down more on that dynamic.
Yeah, it was interesting. I lived in a neighborhood where, everyone knew your parents. Like it's like old school living, right? You come home when the lights came on. And I remember I would like make mud pies in my front yard. And in Florida, if you don't have to dig that long for the seashells to show up. And like I lived on the north side, like the black side of town. We were very far away from the ocean, but there were still seashells in your backyard. And I remember I would make mud pies until the lights would come on. And that's when Star Trek would come on. And I spent a lot of time, me and my dad, watching like Star Trek. That's like a big part of my childhood, and him like, recording the Smurfs. And my dad was Jacksonville's first Black television news reporter. So I also spent a lot of time traveling around with my dad, where they would give him awards for being the first. And he was sort of like Martin Luther King to me. Like he would have these booming speeches, and he was like very magnanimous. And his name was Mac Freeman, and the ladies loved Mac Freeman. And he used to have his own radio show before I was alive called like Make Love with Mac. And like he was like such a G. Like he was like a DJ, and he used to be a Black Panther. My dad was like such a magnanimous sort of personality. So I really grew up in the shadow of being like Mac Freeman's daughter. And it used to feel like it was like I was like the princess of something. And I think a lot of my personality, I think, comes because of him.
Wow, that's incredible detail. Thank you for sharing it. You brought up Star Trek. Can you tell me some of the other TV shows and actors that influenced you while you were growing up?
Yeah, so Star Trek, the first generation was Jean-Luc Picard. Honey, I'm a Trekkie, okay? That was a big one. And you know what else I grew up watching with my dad was The Godfather. Honey, he used to talk about The Godfather like it was the Bible. And he would quote the Bible and The Godfather probably in the same sentence. Well, so The Godfather would be like, what happens in this house stays in the house. We never talk about the family without the family around. But then it'll be like, in the Bible, it says, take care of your parents for as long as all that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, I grew up watching 227 and, Facts of Life, like, and of course, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Family Matters, like Martin, like, didn't we all grow up watching?
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
but I always tell the story about, but I really remember growing up watching like Spike Lee films, especially Mo Better Blues. And I remember they would play it on TV. I would get so close to the TV screen because Denzel Washington was the epitome of like great acting, but I would get so close to the screen because I would try to see him lying and I couldn't see the tell of him lying. And then I'd pretend like I'd be the woman in the scene and I would try to act back to him. And that was sort of like my radar for what authenticity was on screen. It didn't occur to me for a long, long time later that would be sort of like the foundation of me becoming an actor much later.
And shout to Uncle Denzel, my guy. And I'm glad you got a chance to work with him. What was that experience like? So many people say, if I could work with somebody, it would be him. And you've gotten a chance to do that. So what was that experience like?
It was phenomenal. It was the first acting gig of my career straight out of NYU for grad school. And it was him and Spike Lee. And they were just, they were everything that I would hope anybody would have on their first film set, where they didn't treat me like a kid. They treated me like, I was a part of this world just as much as them. And I remember, even the eye for detail that Denzel Washington has with his scripts, it's not on accident that he's phenomenal. He owns every part and he makes sure that the role really fits him and whoever he's working with. And I remember we would just sit down and like study the script. And he's like, Cass, we got to make sure the script is for Black people. He's like, because they didn't write this with us in mind. And the same thing with Spike. And Spike would never give notes that would derail an actor. It would always be like, do more of that. What else do you think is there? All right, any other ideas? Let's play. Like such great collaborators. That's my main memory.
Can you agree with this? I feel like Spike Lee is so very underrated for what he not only brought to our culture, but to the entire movie industry. It just so happens that he was a Black man. Can you acknowledge the influence of Spike Lee for this industry?
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like if you look like me and you, he's not underrated. Like we know. And outside of this country, there's chapters dedicated to the artistry of Spike Lee, and also Spike Lee and what it means for what he did for storytelling for Brooklyn. If Woody Allen is about Manhattan, then he's definitely for Brooklyn. And so for me and for so many people, I don't think I would have even considered myself an artist if there wasn't a Spike Lee before then. Like Spike Lee made it romantic and cool and complicated to be a Black person. We're still at the beginning of storytelling. When it comes to telling stories that embody us and our complexities and our challenges, and we can still be the anti-hero and the hero. Like he's like the beginning of that for me in my life. Yeah, but I don't think enough can be said for Spike Lee.
Very well said. And you brought up The Fresh Prince. How did the role of Aunt Viv get on your radar? And what was it like actually getting the call that you landed such a signature part in television culture?
Yeah, I remember it. So I did this role just before this, and it was a very complicated role for me. And at the end of that, I remember telling my manager, I was like, that's it. I don't want to do any more sad stories about Black people. I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to be crying in the street over my dead Black boy. Like, I'm done with that. And I said, I want to play someone who's like, why can't I play someone who's rich and beautiful and she dresses great? And instead it's about her dreams and her life. Like, I want to tell those type of stories. And so, we really waited around looking for that to come through. But when this role came through, I was like, okay, no, not this one. And I remember my manager called me up. He's like, this is literally everything on your list. And I said, yeah, but I ain't gonna book Aunt Viv. Like, that's crazy. And also, why are we trying to reboot this project? And so it went away for a second. And then finally I saw Morgan Cooper's trailer of his envision of this thing. And then I saw it and I was like, oh, that's brilliant. But then I thought it was too late. I thought the trailer that went around, it was done. And my manager came back again. He's like, why have you not put yourself on tape? And I was like, oh, I'll do it, but this is such a waste of time. So when I tell you I threw myself on tape, like one take wonder, and it went out, I was lucky enough to talk to Morgan Cooper and I got to see some of his movies. And I was so enamored with him and his eye that Morgan Cooper is a genius, and there is more to come. Morgan Cooper, I think, is very prolific. I think he's like this generation's maybe Spike Lee. Like what he has coming, it is so deep and beautiful. Anyway, how I get the news is that I know that they said they wanted to do a chemistry test with me and whoever Uncle Phil might be. And I told my people, they're not going to call me in for no chemistry test. I'm getting out of town. So me and my family went to Greece. And it was like our first vacation since COVID. And I was like, I'm getting up out of town. I ain't staying over here for like a maybe. And sure enough, while I was in Greece, these people are like, yeah, can we do a quick chemistry test? And I was like, all right, but it's 14-hour difference. I hope it works out for y'all. Listen, these people put that's my headphone. These people put this thing together. Next thing I know, my manager sends me a text like 3 a.m. in the morning saying, you need to answer your phone. And I answer the phone. It's 3 a.m. Greece time. I don't know what time it was here. And it's my manager and my agent. And my manager couldn't even keep it in. He was like, Cassandra, my manager was so excited. I have the best manager, Anthony Aiello. He's genius. And I was like, really? And listen, since I said yes to this role, my life has been like, I feel like I've been on a roller coaster of just a lot of highs and just so extreme. And I'm just so relieved how much the culture has embraced this version of the show. I like to say it's not a reboot, it's a deepening of the Fresh Prince.
And you deserve it. And you've talked openly and publicly also about the opposite of this, the challenges that Black women face in seeking proper mental health because of your personal experiences in this area. What is something you wish more people knew about those struggles?
This is going to seem like the weirdest pivot, but there's a great new show on Peacock called Queen's Court that Will Packer put together. Listen, if you want to understand the heart of a Black woman, I think that's a good place to start right there. The whole idea of the strong Black woman is like the worst curse to put on someone, because then you do not allow them to actually be the truth of who they are. It's like an armor, and like an armor is meant to protect what? Something that's very fragile, that could be very weak and vulnerable. And I think that's really true for Black women. And also, I think we are very tired, like exhausted. I think women in general are exhausted. And then put the Black thing on top of it. There's just so many things that you don't even see that we're embodying. And so if you live in a world where you're a strong Black woman, you never even think you need to stop to get care, and specific care for the moment and place that you are in life, because it changes. So yeah, I say a lot about Aunt Viv and Black women in general is that we don't even know what the full expression of a Black woman is, because she's so boxed into this place of patriarchy and white supremacy and capitalism that she's just doing her best trying to fit in, to find love and stability. But we don't even know what the true breadth of that woman is. So we all need some mental health out here.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And you're going to love this next one. Besides Aunt Viv, because you playing that role and you crushing it, give me your personal top 5 television moms.
Okay, top 5. Oh, well, first we have to say Felicia Rashad. Okay, I mean,
no doubt. Auntie.
Come on, Felicia Rashad is the queen of it. And then that I actually would go to Family Matters, the mom on there. Oh my gosh. And I just met her in person recently. This woman has not aged. She looks exactly the same. Okay. The queen of moms. Then the third, who's the third best mom? I guess everybody hates Chris, Tanisha. Like what she did on, the epitome of all of that is just brilliance to me. And then I'd have to go to 227. I mean, Marla Gibbs is a G in everything that she has done. And then, who would be the 5th? I mean, I still have to go back to Janet Hubert, because Janet Hubert, Fresh Prince would always have to be in the top 5.
You alluded to someone earlier that I'm just going to throw out there. Weezy Jefferson. Because when you were talking about seeing Black women on television in their glory, you talked about seeing them with money. Like that depiction for me definitely was something that was classic as well.
It's very true. You know, her and her downstairs neighbors. What is her name? I can't think of her name right now. But you're so right. The Jeffersons, how they embodied like what it meant to move on up, but to keep who you are while you're moving on up, and the complexities of sort of handling upper middle class life and the people who
Yes.
surround you. Honey, yeah, it was a that was the show. It was so interesting how political that show was. It was like the upside down world of All in the Family, because you still got
Correct.
that angry black man instead of the angry white man who didn't like me. You
Yes.
got the angry black. It's a beautiful show. Brilliant.
See, that was an era of television for me, to me, that was the best. Not only the theme songs, but also the spinoffs. Because I
Yes, yeah.
remember watching All in the Family and knowing that it was a racist theme song and knowing that Archie Bunker was racist, but it was so well done, I still watched it. And watching George and Wheezy's character develop into becoming the Jeffersons. So, what about television for you during that period of time? Because for me, it was the theme songs and the spinoffs and the characters. What can you embody from that era that now inspires you now?
Well, you know, I tell people the first day before I started work on Aunt Viv, I sat in my trailer and I just wanted to seep in all of that culture. So I actually watched Diane Carroll, her first episode on Dynasty, and she talks about
Ooh,
when she came on that first episode and she spoke to Aaron Spelling about developing that character. She said, write a role for a white man and let me do everything else. And I just love the idea of her being like, don't assume you know who this woman can be. And I sat in my chair. Of course, I watched Janet Hubert. I also watched actually from Good Times, Florida Evans,
yes.
and her character on there, because I really wanted Viv, and just in general, when I think about my childhood and these Black women, I mean, it is the beginning of that whole, what it was a lot of people trying their best to be expansive outside of the idea of what a strong Black woman is. And Florida Evans had so much life in there. The struggle and the love and the laughter and the pain all lived together in that same house. That's what a lot of those women meant to me, but also those women inspired me, and more than just those women, but those and others really inspired me. How I still didn't see, I didn't see like the full expression of what it means to be me. And I feel like that's why we live in this renaissance of Black actors and actresses right now, because we all sat at home being like, that's good, but you know what you're missing? And that looks good, but you know what you're missing? Like we have more, there's more to talk, there's more to see about us. And that's the time we're living in now. We're seeing a lot. We're seeing a lot of expansive versions of what it means to be African American.
Your favorite Chris Rock story, because you got a chance to work with one of the greatest comedians to do it as well.
Yes, greatest. My favorite Chris Rock story is there's a scene where we're all sitting at a table when we were doing I Think I Love My Wife. And I remember sitting at the table after it was done. I had like a Whitney Houston joke afterwards. And he's like, oh, we're already finished with the scene. And you come up with this great joke. And I was like, oh, and he's like, listen, you are funny. And I was like, no, he's like, no, but you're really, really funny. I was like, really? So because of Chris Rock is why I started my stand-up career. So I was a stand-up comedian and in Los Angeles, and I worked at the Comedy Store and the Ice House, but it was truly because of him. And I'm such a fan of Chris Rock, and he has been such a help in my career. Like he's the reason why I got to do Living Single, which was not Living Single, Single Ladies. SL always gets me confused. Queen Latifah's other show was Single Ladies. And it's because of Chris Rock. And we got to do a play here in Brooklyn at BAM with Nelson George. I'm such a big fan of him, but he's just always been a hype man. If he was walking down the street right now, he would cross the street and be like, Cassandra Freeman, what are you doing? Are they paying you enough? No, are they really paying you enough? You know what I'm saying? Like he's a supporter of Black women out here.
And now working with Bel-Air, I hear that Will Smith, in particular at the beginning, was somebody that was trying to make sure he was influential in the project as well. So what were your interactions like with him as it related to you guys doing Bel-Air?
You know, Will Smith has been, he's been really a great lesson for what a great producer can be, which is here he found, I shouldn't even say found, but I guess found is the right word. Here's someone who got to discover Morgan Cooper, see a piece of content that he created. And instead of going the way of like, this is great, oh boy, now sit down, we'll take care of the rest. He's like, Morgan Cooper, come all the way in. Tell us your full vision. And then he was like, can I tell you what my vision is too? And from the beginning, Will was always like, listen, I can be a part of this as much or as little. He's like, but I think he's so smart to know that to be able to do this generation's version of Fresh Prince, you need someone who is of this generation and make sure that his voice is fully heard. And Morgan Cooper is from Kansas City, but his heart is deep in the culture, mainstream and underground. And I think it's the underground current that makes the show feel so authentic. Because if you think about it, Will Smith, for what he was on the Fresh Prince back then, and if you read his book or even see the documentary that they did on HBO, the behind the scenes reunion, you'll realize how much he had to put his foot down to be like, no, this is authentic to Philly. This is authentic to be a Black man. And that is still true today for our show. And I think that's why it resonates. You don't feel like someone's trying to translate it to someone else. It's just for us.
What has it been like for you? Because when you're so very talented and versatile, you get all types of roles coming your way over a period of years. What is it like to get a role that initially you think that you want, and then you check out the script and then you say, that's not for me? Can you talk about the level of strength that it takes sometimes to turn down a project?
Yeah, you got to be smart about this. When you first come into the industry, I always say you first have to really know how to play yourself, like whatever that is. Like, however people see you, you have to know how to play that before they let you play something else. That's really how it starts for a lot of people. And I think that's how it started for me. But then you get to a place where, I mean, I'm only an actor because I like feeling scared or challenged about something. Like, oh, I haven't looked into that part of myself. I haven't explored those type of people. But at some point, if you say yes all the time, your yes doesn't carry value. You have to say no for your yes to have value. And, my whole career started to change when I started to say no to things. When I was like, no, that's not right for me. And what the universe, I believe, does is as soon as you say no, the universe will send contrast to make sure you mean the no. It's true in relationships. As soon as you're like, I don't want to date this type of person, that same person will show up again and be like, are you sure? Because here it is again. It like gives you 3 chances. You have to say no 3 times before the new journey begins. So no's important.
There's so many people that want to get into entertainment and acting and sports. What advice do you have for listeners who are dealing with the uncertainty and trying to not allow fear to control their lives while still pursuing their destiny?
I always say, it's not about people go after things like I have to get this, and if I don't get it, I failed. I'm like, no, guys, it's in the try. The try is the win. Like, can you just try? And so, because I like to think about at the end of my life, I want to be able to tell people, oh, honey, I tried that. Oh, no, it didn't work out, but I tried it. Stand-up comedy. That's why I did it. I was like, oh, it's on my bucket list. Someone encouraged me. You know what? I'm just going to try it. Like, and whether I succeeded or not, I won because I actually tried the damn thing. It's just about trying. And when you're dealing with rejection, think about your life in general. You're rejected all the time. You're rejected if you're like, is this line open? Oh, it's closed. Oh, I just got rejected. But you're not like, I'm never going to a grocery store again. I sort of handle it like that. My people call me up all the time saying, hey, you're up for this. You might get this role. I'm so unattached. I'm like, yo, life is a journey. At least we try. That's all. So that's why I push my agents and my people sometimes. I'm like, yo, let's just go out for it. Let's just try. If they say no, who cares? We can always say we tried.
Cassandra Freeman in all of her glory. But before I let you get out of here, I have a rapid fire segment called Gone in 60 Seconds. You ready to do this?
Here we go. Gone.
All right. What's another TV sitcom that you feel deserves a reboot?
Oh no. What? You trying to go? Okay. I don't know. Listen, that's the worst question I've ever heard, because I don't think anything needs a reboot. Okay. I didn't think this show needed a reboot, but it needed a deepening. So okay, maybe
let's go deepening.
Good times, I guess. Good times.
Ooh! Yeah, we need more Weezy.
This generation, good times. But maybe that's Chi-Town, child. I don't know. Go ahead.
You need to make that happen. You played Kevin Durant's mom in a movie about his life in 2016 as well. So I have to ask you, who is the real MVP of your life?
I mean, right now, I really have to say it's my husband. My husband is the real MVP. My husband, he's with me. You know, my husband is a yes and sort of person. So whatever I ask for, he's like, yes. And I only have this career that I have now is because I would tell him my dream. I'm like, honey, wouldn't it be so cool one day when I have my own TV show? Yes, honey. And I have the best husband. And even on my lowest days, he still thinks I'm a queen.
Shout out to your husband. Way to represent. So many previous guests, as I mentioned, talk about wanting to work with Denzel as a dream. But you've been there, done that. So who's someone else that you feel like is on your dream radar?
Oh, Michael B. Jordan is for sure someone who's on my radar. Regina Hall is on my radar. Regina King, 200, put them there too, okay? Even Queen Latifah is on that list. Look, so many people like that. Actually, Denai Guerrera, I would love to work with. We actually went to NYU together as well. Oh, she's so great and wonderful. Yeah, it's a lot of different people like that.
I might shed a tear because the season finale of Bel-Air is next week. What can fans expect from that episode?
Episode 10, it's going to be, I feel like the theme of 10, you could say, it costs to tell the truth, but it's worth it all. And a lot of people are going to have to tell the truth. And they're going to have to put their truth on the line. And their truth is about the future that they want to have. And so that means you have to tell the truth right now. And you might break some hearts, but actually it's going to open up some hearts. And hopefully if you can forgive and see a new future, anything is possible. So that's true for me. That's true for Carlton. It's true for Uncle Phil. It's true for Will. It's true for Doc. It's true for Jeffrey. Yes. Y'all, and also I think it should be called win-lose. I said, you know, if you ever saw a white man can't jump, you got that famous monologue from Rosie Perez. She's like, you know, sometimes when you win, you lose, and sometimes when you lose, you win, and sometimes when you win, you tie. Sometimes when you lose, you tie. That's episode 10.
I love it. Make sure you guys check out 10. Make sure you guys follow and support Cassandra Freeman in all of her glory. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you, Jalen Rose. What an honor. Yo, this is amazing. Boom, boom. I can take this on my bucket list too now.
Love, love, love.